Welcome back to the Price of Business TV show. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I'm delighted to be able to spend some time with the writer of an interesting article about the liberal professors outnumber conservative faculty 5-1, Natalie Johnson. She's a writer with a website called The Daily Signal, which is a project of the Heritage Foundation, one of the country's premier conservative think tanks. And, on the one hand, it's fascinating, very detailed. You want to check it out. Put in liberal professors outnumber Daily Signal, and it'll pop straight up. Or you can go to priceofbusiness.com. We'll have a link to the article there as well. Natalie, it's an interesting topic, but it's not new, is it? We've known this for a long time, haven't we?
Yes, we have. This has been reported multiple times in multiple outlets, whether it's a conservative outlet or a so-called liberal outlet. Even the mainstream media has picked this up. But it has been a focus of debate, just showing that whether or not this is something where students are being indoctrinated or if this is kind of being overblown. The study that I saw and I found and reported on is kind of showing that this isn't just some inflated trend and that this is actually something that's happening in higher education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so the reality is, by the way, the very first time I saw a study like this, and I'm now in my 50s, but I look much younger than my age. But the first time I noticed this was in the 1970s. The American Enterprise Institute, in its opinion magazine, it went to lengths to show how big of how pervasive of a problem this is. And, and this is, by the way, what I've been saying all along. Unless we realize that the problems we have with our political process are systemic and it can't be treated with the symptoms. The political situation out there today, I think, is a symptom to what's happening in the classroom. And this is to be true as well, that when people leave Capitol Hill, like people who worked on Capitol Hill and decide to go into journalism, it's 4-1 liberal. For every one that worked for a conservative media outlet, there's 4 that work for a liberal media outlet. I mean, this is pervasive. I don't know how conservative ideas win in a culture like this.
Right, and that's what the Daily Signal is trying to balance out, and that's why reporters like me who do lean a little bit more right, we're not doing this to be a biased outlet. We're just doing it to add balance in terms of the types of issues that are covered. So issues that aren't necessarily covered by the so-called mainstream media or the liberal media, we try to pick up and make light of.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Natalie Johnson, by the way, she's at the Daily Signal. What's your Twitter handle, by the way?
It is at Natalie Johnson with 2 N's at the end of Johnson.
There you go. You got to figure out some way to make sure you get that Twitter handle. I know how that works. Talk a little bit about who did this study. What kind of axe did they have to grind? Obviously, is what the cynical listener and viewer is going to ask.
Right. Well, the study actually came out of the UCLA's Higher Education Research Institute. So this isn't exactly an institute that necessarily has conservative leanings. I mean, it was originally reported on by the Washington Post. Again, not a conservative paper. So I think it adds a little bit more credibility to the study as well, that this is not just something that conservative media is making up or trying to overblow. And basically what they found in this study is that professors have become notably more liberal during the past 25 years, so much so that liberal professors in higher education are now outnumbering their conservative counterparts by a ratio of 5-1. So this is a pretty hefty gap.
Yeah, absolutely. Natalie Johnson, she's with the Daily Signal. That's thedailysignal.com. When we come back, I want to go into some of the implications of this, and I think they're pretty far-reaching. And I think it's an interesting conversation when you think about affluent, hardworking individuals who finally get to a situation where they're able to send their kids to college, and they're sending them off often to go to institutions that undermine the very values that they have. It's an interesting dilemma that the American people are paying a lot of money for. Natalie Johnson, again, we're going to continue our conversation with her right here on The Price of Business. I do want to remind you, best content here, including this interview, can be found over there at usdatareview.com. Stay tuned for more.